Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. Thanks for following us. This is where we go live here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, except on different occasions where I may be traveling or we have special guests on. We have guests on from all over the world, and we do accommodate to their time schedule. Sometimes we have cocktails with the critters on Saturday nights. Those are a lot of fun. I'm going to have one of those coming up here fairly soon. And we can bring on different viewers. Today is, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Carol, Chris. Hey, everybody. I forgot what I was going to say. But today we have, this is a special edition called Behavior Spotlight, where I bring on guests from either in our projects or our memberships so they can meet, so you guys can meet them and we can talk about some of the things that we're doing and some of the topics. Good morning, Addison and Katie. Hey, hello, Judy, Tim. All right, let's get started. So today we have professional horse trainer Kim Wendy out of Texas and Melissa Schmidt, who those of you in level 1, you know both of them fairly well. I just did a consult with Melissa at her house. I believe that was 2 weeks ago. But before we get started, I just want to mention a couple of things that we have coming up and going on, some things that are going on around the center. We have different Coffee with the Critters getting scheduled. We will be having one about Sam, our blind Amazon, who has recently passed. He has a story to tell. There are things I want to tell you that I haven't told the public, the things that we can all learn from. That will be coming soon, and we're going to be having Jeannie Gilligan from A Helping Wing come on here with us, so stay tuned. We are also focusing on posting all of our events. We have so many events coming up this year. I'm already booking into 2021. We have a lot of events coming up here on our Facebook page. On the events section, you will see all the live streams within the Parrot Project, the Pig Project, Level 1, Level 2. This is right here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page. You're going to want to start paying attention to that because it's going to get pretty full. We also have something new coming up, but bear with us. So next week in Level 2, Level 2 is more for professional trainers or people more interested in applied behavior analysis and getting into the field of working with animals or wanting to do more with the animals they already cared for. So in Level 2, we have professional trainers, board certified behavior analysts, people thinking about getting into the field, and people in different fields. We have a book review coming up this week, and it's a fascinating book. We already have our next ones picked out. Next Saturday in Level 1, we have our monthly Q&A. Level 1 is more for people working with their companion animals, birds, pigs, dogs, whatever you have living, husbands in your house. So if you go to our website, you will see all of our different projects. Our website is theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. We have the Deaf Dog Project, the Parrot Project, which is just skyrocketing, the Pig Project, and the Snow Project. We also have our Level 1 and Level 2 memberships where you can find on our website. So next, then on, what month is this? April 16th, we have Dr. Jessica Heckman coming on to follow up and talk about the evolution of domestication, her work with on the fox farms in Russia, and just genetics, period. Just genetics, period, and how it affects behavior. This book review has been a huge eye-opener for many of us in Level 2. So with that being said, that was the photo I said we need to watch for, because before we bring in our guest. And here I'm getting ready to add in Kim Wendy and Melissa. Good morning, everybody. There we go. All right. So there's Melissa, Kim, and myself. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on for Coffee with the Critters.
You bet.
Yep. And Kim, I know you've been on Coffee with the Critters before.
I
At
have.
least once.
Yeah.
Because you've been on a lot of different things with me.
Yeah.
You've been on before, I believe, in level 1 too, haven't you?
Yes.
Where we were talking about negative reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, and then here's Melissa. I know this is Melissa, who I sail with in the summers, where we race every Wednesday night. I can't wait. Yay.
Yeah. You'll be getting email soon from my husband.
Hey, Nancy. Hey, Jill, Tim, everybody. Margaret, Adrian, Eva. Okay, so Melissa, let's see. We live streamed with you 2 weeks ago where I came to your house, which I rarely do anymore. But special exceptions for people. I really take special exceptions for people who I see are really, really trying. And you were. So I said, yes, I will come over. Where we live stream that consult in level 1.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason, I mean, I choose different members of level 1, level 2, the different projects, because different things we're talking about. Like right now in level 1, we're talking about a lot of different things. And Kim, Kim and Melissa, you've both been very active. Melissa, we're working with your 2 dogs.
Yes.
How is that going? I put them right there.
That would be 2 of them. One of them, speaking of foxes, my little fox is in the room with us. We're praying that he doesn't bark out the window.
And if that happens, that happens.
He's being very well behaved laying here with me. So, and he's very bonded to me. So trying to keep him out of the room would probably be a worse idea. So he's the one in that picture in the forefront. And then Buster, who is very bonded to my husband, probably because I have the little terror of fox bonded to me, is in the back of that picture. That was last Sunday, actually, I think, Sunday afternoon. Happened accidentally because I was vacuuming. So I guess I should back up just quickly. We adopted them, started fostering, then adopted them as being told they're bonded pairs. So the rescue didn't want to separate them. Within a couple weeks of being in our house, we lost the senior 3rd dog that we had, and at the same time started to have behavior issues with them. They started, Fox started aggressing against Buster, and Buster defends himself. And so we had a lot of dog fights going on, and it was not pretty. And we had a lot of blood being spilled by my husband trying to break them up. And so I struggled with it for a while, hoping I could get it under control. And we worked in level 1 just through group discussions and stuff of ideas to try and get this better under control. Then it actually got worse, and I ended up hiring through level 1 another member. I won't say her name because I forgot to get her permission, but hired her out of Wisconsin and did live streaming.
She's on here, so if she comments that it's okay, I'll put her name up here.
Okay, I can't see that. So, but hired her for a month, and she worked with me as a great dog and human psychologist to keep me from panicking and to help start where the dogs needed to start at, which was to separate them. And we went from there. So we live in what I saw on another website called a gated community, which is a good way to put it. So we live in a gated community now, and that is that we keep them separated by gates almost all the time. That's actually getting better, as this picture shows. Last Sunday, I moved the gates around and got them set up so that I could start vacuuming and start moving people as I vacuumed through the first floor, because our house is a side-by-side that's kind of a shotgun style. And I forgot, kind of the first time almost, I forgot the hallway gate. So I turned around after I finished vacuuming, and I had both dogs staring at me in the same room. Fortunately, through training them every day, walking them every day, and working on some desensitization and counter conditioning,
We're currently talking about in level 1 right now.
Yes, they actually do better when people aren't involved. The problem becomes when someone walks into the room once they're both together, then Fox gets nervous and freezes, etc. So So I ended up with that, and then kind of ended up deciding to work with that from there. And we ended up with this, and that went on actually for most of the afternoon that I was, Buster, I think, ended up on the couch in the end because he isn't as good at stationing and wasn't at the time. And Fox stayed in his bed, and they had just recently had surgery actually too. So they were just kind of relaxing, and we ended up just continually reinforcing that. And I sat on the couch trying to look casual, but being very attentive and nervous. And we kept treating them, and we were able every now and then to bring them in and work with food reinforcers and attention reinforcers, and Fox on a leash is a little bit of a backup. So we're
Yeah.
moving forward.
I know we worked on several things. Katie Sislow's on here. She's right there. She's the one you've been working with in the past month.
Yes.
And then you had asked me to come in to do some training just to show you. So that's where I was like, well, I need to work with Katie, see what she's suggesting to you, to make sure you stay on the same path. And then I came in and we did this live stream consult in level 1 where we worked on so many different things, but we worked on, if you want to teach them to stationing, you can teach them to station on your bed, then on their beds, then you can transfer that. It doesn't need to necessarily be on a bed. It can still be in the general area. We worked on a lot of different things. Like you said, and Kim, feel free to jump in here at any time, because this applies to every living organism. Stationing is so important, and targeting. Targeting can get so complex. We had Lisa Clifton Bumpus on in level 2 last month, and we were talking about, you're already target training, whether you realize it or not, when you ask your dog to sit. You're teaching it to target its butt cheeks to the ground. And a station would be, now keep them there for a period of time. And stations aren't necessarily meant as to get the animal out of your way for long periods of time. Stations are meant for letting the animal know where to go for periods of time until something else moves around in the room. We're teaching stations and targets here all the time, and targeting can get extremely complex, such as asking for voluntary blood draws from the neck. We do a lot of targeting. Put your head on my hand and keep it there until we get other things done to you. We teach that to our pig for rectal temperature taking. We teach that to our dogs for jugular blood draw. I teach that to some of our birds because it tells them what to do, And a lot of times you'll see behaviors labeled as aggression because the animal's confused. It doesn't know what to do. So that's why this line of training, it's real clear communication, and we're constantly shaping complexity, shaping duration. Kim, do you use targets with I know you have an array of animals. I know you just brought in this little dude.
Yeah, I do, because of course, when I brought her in, she's 6 months old, and we had some fights going on. And so, I was asking in level 1 about different things, and things have gotten so much better. And I've worked on her, like sitting, because she wanted to jump. Where the people that I got her from was an older couple that found her. She was dumped. And so they couldn't keep her. And when I saw her, I'm like, I want that dog. She's just so cute. And I like dogs that are like the border collies, the blue heelers and stuff. So I got her, but like I said, she jumped a lot. So we worked on sitting a lot. And now she's laying down and she's doing those types of things. And then I've had to work on the aggression between my border collie and her, because this one here decided she wanted to resource guard my husband and the couch. So when the other dogs would come around, she'd want to attack them. So I had to work on that. And like I said, the fights have gotten so much better. They don't happen like they were, but it's because I'm being more aware and watching. Like my border collie, sometimes she would just freeze and stare. And I know you said that can definitely be a sign. So it's just being aware of the little things, because they'll turn into the big things if you don't.
Yeah, and you posted some videos in level 1 of the dogs interacting, and we all kind of dissected and was like, look at this, look at this, look at this. Because a lot of times people will say, well, my dog didn't do anything. They don't understand that that freeze and that stare is something. That is a big cue. And that's where people will look at it and was like, well, it's not doing anything. Yes, it is.
Well, and I didn't see that at first, Laura, because I thought, she's laying there calmly. She's not showing her teeth, or her eyes weren't just getting real hard. And I thought, okay, it's okay. But she wasn't. She was waiting for the perfect time to attack is what she was doing.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like, I know in our memberships, we have podcasts, level 1 and level 2. We have podcasts where we can listen to. There is one on overstimulation, over threshold. Once the animal is pushed to that point, and I know body language is behavior. If the animal is pushed to that point and we don't necessarily see it, once they go over threshold, boom, there goes that attack. It's too late at that particular point to work on changing it because it already happened and it's already in the process of happening. So that's why it's key to be able to read and understand what those behaviors, because, if you make the mistake and the encounter happens, learn from it. What happened? What happened right before it? Did you see that freeze? Did you see the lip licking? Did you see, the ear movement? So those are things where I'll be like, the lip licking happened. Boom. That can be a cue for me to watch for the next time. And then what you need to do before the next time happens is all this training that both of you, Melissa and Kim, are already putting into place. Target, station. So when you see the lip licking, boom, Fox, touch my hand. It's a way to pull Fox away from your other dog. It's a way for you, Kim, to separate your dogs. I know you're working. Let's see, I'm just painting.
And the other thing I was going to say too, what's kind of hard is with her, giving her, like the raw hides and things like that to keep her occupied, with her being a puppy and still keeping that, so because I don't want her chewing on other things, just her toys, and making sure she doesn't get them around the other dogs. Even though my older dogs don't really play with them, my border collie will get one of the balls and then guard it. So I have to really pay attention to all the toys, what's going on with that.
Yeah, because all the toys can be a way, those can be objects to resource guard. So you could actually reinforce the very behavior you're trying to change. And we know reinforcement is so much more than food. So with that being said, I know in level 1, level 2, when I live stream or I talk about something, I will say, go listen to the podcast on blah. Melissa, you mentioned that you do listen to the podcast. And Kim, I know you listen to some of them.
Yes.
I make those podcasts on purpose. Sometimes I have a list, and I have a huge list of what I still need to record. But something like Kim, your situation with your dogs or your donkeys, and Melissa with your dogs, I'll be just like, bam, we need to address this now, and I'll go into a podcast. Those are there in addition to the live streams, in addition to the monthly Q&As, for you to listen to on the go while you're cleaning stalls, cleaning cages, working out, which never happens here. cooking. I have a whole afternoon of cooking coming up. So that's what I do is I sit there and cook and drink my wine and listen to the podcasts. Do you find them beneficial?
Absolutely. I mean, I want to take notes. It's like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Yeah, I get very in detail. And what I try to do in the podcast is I'll go in, I'll talk about a topic, I'll define it, and I'll put it into play. This is what it looks like before modification. And then I give examples because Nancy here says, I don't know if you guys can see this, in response to every single animal can learn stationing, because everything is learning. If it's drinking water, breathing air, it's learning. And a lot of people don't understand that, don't see it. But that's why we have here a deaf dog, a deaf and blind dog. We did have a blind, fully flighted Amazon. Those animals were brought here for numerous different reasons. Number one, because some of them didn't have, well, none of them had a home. But the other reason was to show, okay, we have a fully flighted Amazon with no eyes. How can we train this? And you clearly saw in my live streams that Sam was eager. Sam was very rarely had his cage door shut. We taught him so many things. And I tell people, don't push the animal to the point where it has to revert to using its wings to get away from you. Don't push the animal to the point where it has to use its legs to run from you or show that growl back to you. We do that. That's why with Snow, she can't see you. So she can't see the thumbs up. She can't hear you. So she can't hear the word good. But with her, she's probably, I have so many amazing teachers, Snow, Sam, Willoughby, the turkey belcher. She's all through touch and some scent. I'm sure there's a lot more scent going on than what I'm aware of, but it's all touch. A lot of it is touch. So with that being said, Adrian says, or bite, correct. Kim, I know you brought in some miniature donkeys.
I did.
You're showing your you've been recording and showing that in level 1, how you're doing, because I know you were working on, that's level 2. I was thinking working on approach. Somebody in level 2 adapted a horse. You were trying to get these donkeys to eat from your hand, correct?
Yeah, actually, when they came to me, or when I bought them, because I plan on showing them, neither one of these donkeys are halter trained. This lady that's what she does, is she breeds them and sells them. And I don't know, she probably had 80 donkeys. So they're not handled a lot. The white one was handled a little bit more, the gray one not. So that's what I've been working on, is getting them gentled down and, prepared for the halter, because I wasn't going to force it. Of course, to move them from the trailer to the stall, you had to do that to get them there. But now, no, there's no forcing of stuff. It's the gray one I've been trying to get to take a treat out of my hand. The white one, he does. The gray one still will not. I mean, I've tried several things, and I thought, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about that for right now. He loves to be scratched. And so I know I can use that as a reward, because I halter trained a foal, 2-week-old foal, just using scratches, because it wasn't eating. So I thought, I'm not going to be so worried about that. I'm working on other things with him, and he will eventually, I believe.
Yeah, and that's something we're currently talking about in the Parrot Project. I've got a similar situation going on, Kim, that you do. We're getting ready to start harness training in the Parrot Project. So I'm picking 2 of my different birds, Rico and Rocky. Rocky, because of the commercial, that attention from 50 people on set, he just thrived in that. So I was just like, all right, we need to get Rocky out of the center more to different events. So harness training, he's a great candidate for it. And this is in correlation with your donkey. I mean, so we're starting to talk about harness training. So I'm live streaming showing when do you start harness training? If I got that harness out right now, Rocky would probably attack it. And then I'm poisoning the cue, which we talk about in our podcast, where you're unknowingly, or hopefully not knowingly, pairing an aversive with something you're trying to train. And it's usually moving too fast, moving faster than what, whoa, Kim just disappeared. Moving, and she said she might have some problems, so she's going to jump on her computer. Moving faster than what the animal is comfortable with.
I'm still here. Can you hear me, Laura?
So it's too bad because I wanted Kim to hear this point. If I start working with the harness right now with Rocky, he's going to attack it. It's too much, something foreign, very unfamiliar, too fast. So what am I doing? I was just like, all right, now we need to just put the halter, put the harness away. All right. This is, other things need to start happening first. So I'm slowly shaping in, different objects. Kind of in the same way, Melissa, I know we talked about when I was at your house. Oh, Kim's still there.
Yeah.
Shaping
I can't see or hear her, but
yeah, we can't see you, Kim. If you want to jump out, maybe jump back in.
Okay.
I'll put her, she's on screen and she can hear you, Laura. Okay. Kim, do you want to jump out and jump back in? Because neither Melissa or I can see or hear you.
Yeah.
Kind of like, Melissa, we were talking about when I was at your house training a leave it. There she comes.
yeah, and I've debated the same thing with even muzzle training and a lot of that I've read and that you have live streamed on muzzle training. Oh, yay. But because for Fox, I don't know if he has such a tiny little nose, but I don't want a vet to have to muzzle him because that's necessary for whatever they're doing, but then have that be such a negative experience, which is also why we're working on being able to touch his feet, which you worked with us on, because his past vet records show that his nail trims were always done in a vet. That, from me and my animals, makes me nervous because I don't know how they're doing that. I trust my vets a lot, but they don't let me in the back, unfortunately. So that grooming of all types in the past is something I have always done myself, full haircuts, full everything. So that's why we're working on that.
Yeah. And we can actually make the veterinarian's job easier because it's not they're there to help medically. It's not their job to get the animal comfortable with the training. This is how we can do it here at home, get it ready, and then be there with the animal through the vet visit and just say, hey, the animal knows how to do this. Let me cue it. Let me work with it. So great. And Kim, while you were off, we were talking about the halter.
I heard the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. So you heard it, and what sparked me in mentioning this was you saying, just put the halter away. Put it away for now. We're not there yet. And that's what we're doing with Rocky and the Parrot Project with the harness. Put the harness away. We're not even there yet. We have so many different things to work with. So
Yep.
what are you doing then? What have you?
Because for me, I'm always take the time the animal needs. It's going to be so much better for you because if you rush them, you're going to have holes in your training program that will show up. And so right now, and you have to, with the donkeys, they don't run as far like a horse when they get scared about things, but they are different about things. They are a character. Like, for example, I have to really pay attention to things that are going around because if the wind's blowing high, I don't train them because they're so worried about the wind and the banging and clanging and all that stuff, that they won't even pay attention to me. Or like if
over threshold.
the horses are running around, they don't pay attention to me. So I have to be very aware of those things. Or like the new dog, they were kind of worried about her. So I have to pay attention to those things that are going on and know that they're fully present with me when I'm working with them. Because I don't want to be training the behavior to run off from me.
And pair that with your training session.
Yeah.
Poisoning the cue.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you see the video I just posted in level 1 of me working with my sister's dog with the wind?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. That's the one where I was showing my sister's dog has a fear of a lot of things. And she's come so far with her, but just when the wind would blow, I mean, the behaviors were all there. Tail tucked so tight, ears back, cowered down, licking lips, whale eye. And then I was careful. I started throwing out kibble, and she came back to it, but the wind already blew, and I threw the kibble. But what I was watching for at that point was, are you so over threshold? Can I get you back? And she came back. And when she came back, I just started boom, boom. And then you see the wind. I don't have control of the wind. I am trying to control behavior in an uncontrollable, in an environment where things are out of my control. But at the same time, I'm sure we did, left the garage door open. So where if it was too much for her, boom, she could just go into the garage. So she has the opportunity to escape. And if I were to see her go into the garage, I would have said, yeah, we got a lot more work to do here. I'm not pairing myself with this aversive. But she didn't. She stayed right in front of me. And that's when we started talking about the 4 main factors of reinforcer effectiveness. And that's going on right now in level 1. And even though I'm talking about a dog, it applies to everything. I am always using the 4 main factors of reinforcer effectiveness when I am training. Always. And it's, deprivation, immediacy, size, and contingency. Usually I'm using all 4 during a training session. And so you put the halter away. Where did you go from there? What different things are you working on?
Well, with the gray one, because he's a lot more spooky or cautious. And so, I'm still moving pretty slow with him. The white one, you can touch the white one all over the place, scratch him. I mean, he is ready to start targeting the halter, because that's where I move to next, is target the halter, then finally get the halter on. But what I have worked on is putting my hands like around their neck and just kind of moving them to the side, preparing them for when the halter is on them, that they feel that pressure, because when you put the halter on them, that's a pressure that they have to follow. So I want them to understand that, and they just even moving their body or a little step. So I'm preparing leading up to when the halter will be on them. I do that with the gray one and the white one both. Or put my hand underneath their jaw and just barely, bring it forward, and they're taking steps forward. So it's all in preparation for when that halter comes.
Good. I like that. And maybe this can, I don't know if this transfers over to your dogs, Melissa. We did something very similar in the pig project. You hear me always say, where you start training your dog to walk loose on a leash is at the park, is not at the park. There's so many things that have to, because you get to the park, you're going to be over threshold. With pigs, when I'm training pigs with a harness, and then, training to accept a harness, then you've got this pressure, around here on your back. But that's only part of the training. Then the leash goes on. Then I start training pressure, accepting resistance, tension. So I'll take that leash, I stick it on, and I start pulling it up. So it's encasing the pig's body, but I start pulling up to get it used to that tension, because a lot of times what happens, you take that pig, that dog, that horse, that parrot out on a harness and a leash. If they're not used to hitting that tension at the end of the leash, it can send them into fear. I don't understand what this is. And you will see, and that's all paired with your training. And then what do you think they're going to do the next time they see the harness or the leash? I had a situation that happened to me where my pig got scared, took off running, hit the end of that leash, and oh, it was a disaster. Hit the end of that leash, and because it didn't know that tension. What that tension is constantly telling the pig is, you cannot go here. You cannot go here. No, 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 this is not an option. And you know how when we're training, we leave the word no out of it, because the animal doesn't learn as fast than being reinforced for what to do. And that tension at the end of the leash is a consistent no, 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 this is not an option. The animal doesn't understand. Over threshold fear, and what that pig started doing was just squealing and spinning in circles. And I was worried he was going to get out of the harness. He gets out of it, and I couldn't let go of that lead. I lost my pig. He gets out of this harness, now your life's in danger. Now I have no control. So I pulled him, picked him up, and ran, and said, well, that was a complete disaster. We need to start. Now we have to counter condition all this stuff. And I think that was our last podcast in the membership, was counter conditioning and desensitization. And a couple of topics I want to talk to you both about.
And Laura, I can just say before you move on, I can say the same thing. Even Fox and Buster walk together. They always have. They do great. Of course, packs typically moving together, at least with dogs, do well, and they have never had to discontinue that. I did buy, because Fox pulls at the very end of the leash, always has since the day we got him, clearly was never loose leash trained, and that is not even somewhere I've gone yet. Kim is like so much better. My problem, especially only working with dogs for the most part, is knowing how to not move too far forward too fast, like how to do the tiniest of steps. That is consistently my problem, and where my mind even gets stuck before I even start training, because I'm like, I don't even know where to start this, which is what we discussed as well. But yeah. I bought a harness for Fox fairly early on that was a front clip harness that was supposed to avoid a natural way to avoid them pulling as much. And I'm like, okay. And this was before we had our other problems. So I thought, this is what I'm going to focus on. I just kind of got that harness out of the box, clipping it on the front of him. And he's a very vocal dog, which is beneficial and sometimes scary, but is beneficial because he immediately is, even without me at the time paying close enough attention to his body language, he then, each time I'm clipping a clip, starts to growl a little more and grumble. And he's not growling necessarily at me. He's just vocalizing what he's not comfortable with. He's very good at that, which is good for me. So, and I kind of watched, and I'm trying to figure it out at the time, which this was several months ago, and realized, I don't even know that this harness is going to be, I looked at it once I even had it on him, and he was not happy, one. And two, I thought, I don't even think this harness is secure enough for him to take him outside on. But the same thing where I started too soon of just throw the harness on and it's fine. And it wasn't. And we've never done it since. But I decided it wasn't secure enough anyway. But yeah.
Well, and go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, I was going to add to like what you were saying about the harness thing, because my border collie, my blue heeler, she was not leash trained either. And so she had got out the front door one day, and I had a collar on her, and I grabbed her, and just like a fish flailing around and twisting herself. And it's like, and it's like, no. But I had to get her at that time. And I knew that she didn't like trying to be led by that collar at all. I got her a harness. And so the target training, you know, follow me with the harness and stuff. And now she's doing so much better with that harness, but she did not like that collar because she didn't understand it. So yeah, but it's like she understands the harness, and I will gradually work towards that. But I hate it when they do that, when they do that flailing around and stuff. But in some situations where you're at, like you said, with the pig, you have to do what you have to do to take care of business at the time.
Yes, absolutely. And I've got several different things I want to talk about. And thank you, Nancy Forrester. I see your comment. She just made a really good compliment to Coffee with the Critters. So thank you. Let's do this in level 1. Let's start a project. Where we begin for this harness training. I didn't realize this was such an issue. Let's do something about it, and I'll live stream the training. And I would love it if you guys record where you're starting, and we'll work on it as a project, everybody together. And like you just said, Kim, moving too far too fast, or Melissa, you said that. Different things we can do, because even Kim, with your donkeys, I have this written down to talk to you about. When we train using positive reinforcement in applied behavior analysis, this is why I do what I do. I never thought I would become a professional animal trainer, but I love empowering animals, especially animals that have a history of not being empowered. Same, you know, several of the animals here. And that training gives that animal, it puts choice back into their environment. And when you see them starting to thrive off the choices they now have, when you observe what choices they're taking, you are observing a potential positive reinforcer. You know, oh, I had no idea. You know, that training empowers them. If we empower the animal, we're usually the one empowering them, and we're paired with that. Now we're become a conditioned reinforcer, and I want to see animals run and fly to me as soon as I walk in the room. If I see them doing that, then I know I'm doing my job effectively. They want to be with me. And then you no longer have to use food as a reinforcer. Just the opportunity to be with you, to interact with you, to communicate through those behaviors becomes the reinforcer. You mentioned, Kim, you had to grab the dog. And this is something I've said before. When you saw the video of Tequila here on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page with the collar on, when we talk about positive punishers. Punishers are only punishers if you see the future rate of that behavior decrease. And they're positive is because an aversive has been added. That collar, I don't know one bird that loves to put a collar on itself. But a lot of times, like Paul Chance says, will I use positive punishers here? We try to stay far away from positive punishers and negative reinforcers. But sometimes they need to be used. But you think about them very carefully before you use them. Is this your last alternative? One situation where we will use positive punishment is when the alternative of not using it in that particular situation is worse. Fight's getting ready to happen. I will throw something in between the two animals. That is a positive punisher. This is an aversive, scares them, boom, they go the other. It's a lot. It's better than the alternative of not introducing it. But the key about using positive punishment, if I have to use a positive punisher, which I rarely do, if I have to use a positive punisher, I use it and I'm like, note to self, do not do this again. Because then those aversives are paired with you. All kinds of things can go wrong in that situation. Note to self, this needs training. How are we going to, instead of telling the animal no, what are we going to do instead? But that collar, that's a positive punisher. That is one, yes, this needs to be in this behavior modification plan. This is constantly telling the bird, no, 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 you cannot get to your chest, you cannot get to your leg. The alternative of not worse using it is worse. But at the, holy cow, turkey vulture, sorry. But at the same time, you have a behavior modification put in place so you can slowly withdraw this positive punisher. And tequila is thriving with it. Tequila is a Moluccan cockatiel. So I just want to talk about that with positive punishment, empowering the animal. We can empower the animal through training. And Melissa, you mentioned something about getting nervous during your training. And like you mentioned when I was showing the picture of your two dogs, like this happened for a long period of time. I was sitting on the couch. I was very nervous, but it was happening. I just wanted to say, when you get nervous, that is a cue to yourself. Pay attention to that and ask why you're nervous. Because why you're nervous, when you can answer that, there's your reinforcer for being nervous. And I always tell people, if you are nervous, you're probably moving too fast, okay? Because number one, your animal can probably pick up on your tension. You may not see yourself being tense, but you may be sitting there constantly going like this. That can become a cue to the animals. Okay, I need to be on guard because this is paired with all this other stuff.
And Laura, what people do is they hold their breath, and then you have that tension in your body, and it changes your energy. The animal feels it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I learned that the hard way in the beginning, working with Katie, and us messaging back and forth, her voicing when we had mistakes happen where the dogs still got to each other or something in the beginning, or the times that they chose to be together and I didn't end it soon enough, and then was kicking myself afterwards saying, I realized I shouldn't have asked this dog to go here because he's not comfortable here. And unfortunately, I didn't get to end in a good spot. And it was stuff that I felt a little bit at the time, but didn't pay attention to. And I've learned more to follow my gut with that and just say, we're going to stop here so that we can stop in a good spot, because that's obviously the goal. And in the beginning, we struggled with that because it usually didn't, the whole thing would be good and we had to end on a bad note and things like that. That picture that day, actually, we were able to end at a good spot. And I was worried at first, but because I know their body language so much better now I can say, okay, everyone's fine with this. If I see someone isn't fine with this, then I let them, and fortunately, they're also making better choices through the training. So I see Fox, when he's not comfortable, will remove himself. And instead of using coercion or anything like that I've known in my past, if I see him choosing to remove himself from a space, like going on the other side of the drape at the front door when we're trying to go out and he's normally excited, I know, okay, he's not okay with something between the two of them or this circumstance. Buster does the same thing. He does it much more readily because he is not comfortable with Fox for the most part, unless it's set up correctly. So he will remove himself readily, which is beneficial to me. And I've learned to let that happen. And when I see him removing himself, I tend to look at the opposite dog to see what's going on, because Buster is my best tell for something isn't comfortable.
Yeah, I like that. Giving the animal the opportunity to escape and then reinforce that. I would be like, cool, you just ended the training session, because it could have gone a different direction. And then if you give your animal the opportunity to say, I'm done, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm out of here. Then the animal hopefully starts learning, I can end this when I want it to end, and be a great communication tool to you, that you will recognize that the animal has just cashed out, said too much, I'm done.
Yeah. And for right now, that's not even the training sessions they're eager to do, because we don't really get to do as much as I would even like, but that's even just moving them around the house at times when they are together. And I know it's times they're typically quote unquote okay together. Sometimes that isn't the case. When Fox gets tired at the end of the night is when I pay very close attention. There's certain times a day I know are riskier. And when I see one of them acting differently than they would normally act, that's when I really pay close attention.
Because behavior's there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can start reading it, when you can start accurately reading it, then your relationship can just skyrocket. And the all four of you, Dan, and the two dogs, relationship can skyrocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, something else one other thing I had written down here based on what you guys are talking about, and maybe this comes into play, Kim, with your donkeys. You can't start the training soon enough. The training's already happening. If that animal is breathing air and drinking water, it's already learning from its environment. Where do I go to get the water? We can't start training young enough. And so that's why it kind of confused me with the donkeys, Kim, that they were already 6 months old and not really handled much.
Well, actually, no, these were a year old.
Okay.
And she just doesn't handle them much. I mean, when I went to get them, like the gray one, she just kind of herded him around and we herded him in the trailer. Now the little white one, she put a halter on and we got it in the trailer. But the gray one, you couldn't get near him to touch him. You had to herd him in the trailer.
So what are you doing with him now that's empowering him?
Well, he is in a big pen. I mean, he can go inside his barn or be outside in his run and stuff. And so from there, I've just been working on like the targeting and at first getting him to come to you. I wanted him to come to me. I didn't go force it upon him. It's like, you come to me. And that's what he does. He'll come to you sideways, to be scratched and loved on and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you think he's coming to you sideways because he can get a full read of the environment? I don't know.
I think with him, he's just not comfortable coming at you front on. And you'll find that with foals when they're, like weanlings to yearlings, they'll come backwards at you. And I think some of that is the protection because, they can kick really easy. And so with him, he just comes sideways to you. And I just feel like he's not comfortable coming at you head on yet.
Okay. So a more protected approach.
Yeah, because the other one will. I mean, he comes right to you with his head and he's fine with it.
So that's clear communication.
Yeah.
Comfort level, where you need to go, what you need to be doing now, what you need to be doing next.
Yeah. And that's the thing is what I tell people, animals like us, we learn at different rates. Some are faster picking up on things, some are slower. The gray donkey's just slower. He's more cautious. The white donkey is more trusting right now. And so I just have to work harder with my gray one because he's cautious.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the photo of them, wondering exactly what's happening here, with you just saying all this, he's the one in the corner, the white one's in the front.
Yep.
I don't know if he's finding comfort being behind the white one. So
they actually, that was when we first got them, they were in the trailer. And when you get in the trailer with them, they would move around a lot. They change places. One would be at the back, one would be at the front. And that's where I just caught a good picture of them and took the picture. But, when we went to catch them, they were both worried, of course, because they, didn't have had never had halters on and stuff. But it's, like I said, with donkeys, my donkey that I had before that I lost, you clip the hair off of them when you go to show them and stuff. So you clip their hair off. When I went to move him, he saw his hair and was like, oh my gosh, what is that? He was scared to death of the hair on the ground. They're just characters, you know. And so some of them, like I said, are just more cautious. A friend of mine in Navasota, Texas, trains donkeys to drive. And she'll have some that she comes in and she can tell in 30 days, no, this one's too cautious. It's not going to drive. It's just too spooky. And that's what I would say of him right now. He's not possibly going to make a driving animal because he's too cautious and spooky. The other one would be fine. So it's just the difference in them.
Sure. And that can be about, you know, so many times we have expectations of what we think we're going to train. And maybe we're thinking too big, too fast. And we need to take a step back and say, not that we may not be able to train that. And there's some things that it's just like, okay, that's not going to happen with this animal, you know? But there's also situations where you can say, we can train that, maybe not right now. There's other things, other smaller steps we need to empower this animal so this animal understands the positive consequences that are going to come through interaction.
Well, and that's what I found with him is, or with a lot of the horses or the donkeys, is I work through an obstacle course. Now, there's a lot of things I do to prepare before I ever go to an obstacle course. But the obstacles can really build confidence in the animal. It improves people's timing, their horsemanship skills. It can improve their confidence. And that's why I love the obstacles, because there's a purpose to it. It's not just you're asking the animal to do something without a purpose. And they understand that and they love it.
Well, I don't know about you, Melissa, but I was just sitting here thinking about both of your dogs with obstacles. They both have a reason. I mean, maybe not yet, but you can start figuring out how you're going to introduce this, because when you have them together, this is the importance of focus and control exercises. I need your eyes on me so I can read your behavior and you can read what I'm getting ready to ask you. And you can work eventually with both of them, asking them to do different things. So now you're pairing, being together, bringing positive consequences. And we can start shaping that relationship.
Yeah. And I think the picture you showed, even, or maybe a couple of days later when I had a similar setup, I do move them around using food so that they are focused on me and the treats, but they are side by side. That is very effective, and how I can move them under almost any circumstances if needed, though I try and make it more choice controlled than just luring. But I have trained them a little bit in the same room, and it's really just kind of moving them around together, and or having one be on one spot, one be on another. I can toss stuff to Buster and he'll stay. Fox is a little more hands-on, like Kim was talking about. They're each very different. And with me being newer to positive reinforcement training, it's a big leap for me to learn at the same time as trying to teach them, hopefully effectively, is that learning to take the smallest steps possible and learning how they learn, because they're very, very different dogs and they're driven by different things and they move at different paces. And some days, and every day, every training session, you have to figure out obviously what pace they're moving at, how they're feeling. I'm figuring that out before, just doing some quick target training just to figure out, okay, where are you at today? How are you feeling today? Especially Fox, he's so human in his emotional state that it just changes. You can just tell he doesn't feel like doing it, or he's really into it, or somewhere in between. And you have to, figure that out and move with that, just like Kim was talking about.
Yeah. And in the training should start becoming for you a feeling of, I'm excited to do this, versus you're training whether you realize it or not. It doesn't have to be a situation with, I'm home and this is what we have to do again. I love trimming pigs' hooves, because it's the interaction, it's the positive reinforcement, and it makes my relationship with Milo, the mini pig, just skyrocket, you know? And I do kiss him and kiss his little snout and tell him how good he is and how much he's appreciated. So,
and I
well,
saw that first with Buster, because Buster, even the first couple days we had him, I needed to trim some stuff on his face. I've done that with a ton of different dogs. Grooming is one thing. I've even volunteered within shelters that they've brought dogs in emergency situations to my house so that I can take care of emergency grooming situations. Buster, I had never seen it before, but it fascinated me and I learned from it. Is I just wanted to quickly clip a couple things on his face. I knew he didn't know me, had no trust me. I didn't want to spook him. I didn't want to poison the queue with the scissors, anything else. But I needed to take care of a couple things that were potentially going to limit his mobility. So in doing that, I clipped a couple quick things and that first weekend. And after I did so, I was shocked that he immediately like jumped on me, started licking my face, and went berserk happy, and or what I would call happy. And it fascinated me, and I saw it over and over again with him, because for him, I think he has more experience with grooming. Fox is very cautious with you touching his body, and you have to be very cautious with it. Buster, I think, has been groomed before, and he shows that he enjoys the interaction of it. He enjoys the one-on-one attention of me giving him a haircut or a bath. Even if he's slightly uncomfortable or cautious in the moment, I can do his nails, I can do all of it. And after the fact, he's excited. And he's excited to have had that interaction, same as you talked about with Milo. He went berserk the first couple of times. I did a tiny bit of trimming on its face, and I'm like, what is this dog? I was confused as to what is this dog doing? Why is he so excited after the fact? But yeah.
that's great. That's great. We could go on for another hour easily. So Melissa, this was your first Coffee with the Critters. Did it go fast?
Oh yeah. Any time with you usually does.
Thanks. Do you see how you just get so focused on the topic and then boom, there goes the hour. I want to thank you both, Melissa and Kim, for coming on here with me this morning. I wanted the wide variety of topics where we could talk about, which was Melissa and her dogs, Kim with your horses, your dog, and your donkeys. And hopefully I got to bring in some variety where you guys could see how this works with pigs, parrots, giraffe, because that's what I was actually thinking with the neck target. Thank you both. Thank you for being so active in level 1. Let's get some projects started and let's work on it as a whole.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So
Kim, I'll message you on where to start. Since you have the best place on this tiniest places to start, I'll be like, how do I start this?
So if any of you want to follow Kim Wendy, I've known Kim. Kim, I've known you for years. I've never physically met you, but we work on a lot of things on the side. We have before. You can reach Kim Wendy at kim@passionatehorsemanship.com. And then if you guys want to get in touch with Melissa, you can find her on her Facebook page, which once this live stream ends, if you guys want, whether it's today, tomorrow, I would suggest, because a lot of people are making comments and I can't, and asking questions. I can't address them all during the live stream. So if you guys want to go back when this is over and reply to them.
Okay.
Great. So a couple of more things. If you guys are interested in some of the content and how we work, we have our level 1 membership online learning for companion animals, level 2 for professionals, and we have 3 people joining level 2 this week. The Parrot Project, which is skyrocketing, focused. Our projects are species specific. So we have the Parrot Project, the Deaf Dog Project, and the Snow Project. And you can find all that information on our website at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. We also have Deb Jones and I have our second all species animal behavior and training workshop coming up the second weekend in October. We've already started working on that. I'm very excited about it. The end of April, April 27th, we are having here a workshop, a physical workshop with the pet tutor, We will be live streaming that for level 1 and level 2. It's going to be at least a 4-hour workshop showing how we use that on an array of species of animals. Honored to have asked to have been the person focusing on behavior for the new foundation called Collaborating for Avian Wellness. You want to know anything bird, you need to be following that. And don't forget, sign up for our email newsletter. We try to send that out every couple of weeks with a lot of valuable content to you. So there you guys go. Thank you both again. And I'll be seeing everybody next Sunday, Coffee with the Critters. Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Bye, guys.